Khorne here, and today I want to share with you some of my picks for the most enjoyable factions to play in Total War Warhammer 3. There is no strict ranking criteria, I'm simply going to be ranking my picks by how much fun I have while playing these factions. Since this list is completely subjective, I'm sure everyone will have their own favorites, but hopefully I can inspire you to try out some of mine, and hey, feel free to share your favorite campaigns in the comments below. So, without further ado, let's begin. At number 10, we have Rakars. Dark Elves were one of my most played races in Warhammer 2. However, with their rework in Warhammer 3, I find them to be a bit less enjoyable to play. Not weaker, mind you, as they are probably stronger now than they ever used to be. But I just can't enjoy their campaign as I once used to. That being said, there is still one Dark Elf Legendary Lord that I have fun playing, and that is Rakars. You see, Dark Elf armies are some of the most enjoyable armies to use in the game, but in a lot of cases their early campaign can feel a bit stale with limited options. However, when it comes to Rakars and his beast pens, things become a little more interesting. By raiding, sacking and occupying settlements, you have a chance at attaining certain beasts to recruit, which can range from mere harpies all the way to mammoths and carnosaurs. This for me makes his campaign extremely unique in the way it plays, fitting his role of Beastmaster and adding an extra layer of roleplay and theme to his campaign. By waging war in Lustria, you will be able to capture some dinos for your collection, while raiding Norska will give you some woolly mammoths to trample your enemies. This also makes him a bit stronger than the other Dark Elf Legendary Lords because of the fact he can recruit these units anywhere on the map whenever he wishes. He also boosts some of my favorite units in the game, the War Hydras, and is able to recruit them fairly quickly. Now, the only downside to playing him is the fact you will have issues when it comes to confederating the other Dark Elf Legendary Lords, and the fact that he starts out in Lustria. But considering how unique and fun his campaign is, I think it is worth the trade-off. So, if you're ever looking for a Dark Elf campaign that's different, beast-filled, and decently strong, Rakars is definitely the lord to pick. Number 9, we had to have at least one Skaven on this list, and for me that is Throt. Skaven are extremely fun to play with their strong and enjoyable mechanics, the quest for food is never ending, and your desire for power is ever growing. However, they do have a downside when it comes to fielding armies. The true Skaven way of war, by flooding the world with masses of cheap units, is hard to pull off due to how expensive their units are. Because of this, in most cases, you will usually doomstack with either weapon team armies or all of the various war beasts you have. However, I have found two Skaven lords that do embody the way of the rat, and they are Queek and Throt. Queek because of how strong and cheap he can make clan rats, but Throt because of his flesh laboratory. The Flesh Laboratory is a mechanic that allows you to augment your units, giving them ridiculous bonuses by boosting their stats, reducing their upkeep, making them explode, regenerate dead models, and even more. It's an incredibly interactive mechanic that immerses you in the role of a mad scientist, tinkering with his units to create even more twisted and powerful versions, or ones that blow up spectacularly. This is all while also giving you units to recruit whenever the growth vat is emptied and a little bit of food for your troubles. Throt also has the best clan stone out of all the rats, with it being able to heal your units and revive them. I don't think there is anything negative to say about his campaign, aside from the fact you have to fight Kislev in the beginning, but after you've devoured all of them, the Empire is easy pickings. Overall, it's a highly entertaining and unique experience that I would definitely recommend if you haven't tried it out already. At number 8, we have Be'lakor. When it comes to the Warriors of Chaos, there are, in my opinion, only two fun factions to play, and those are Be'lakors and Archaons. This isn't only due to the fact they are able to confederate every other Warriors of Chaos Legendary Lord, but also because they have access to every unit in their roster and have some very powerful faction bonuses that enhance the way you play as the Warriors of Chaos. Now, out of the two of them, Be'lakor is more unique, has a faster start, is able to traverse the entire map in a very short period of time, and doesn't have any restrictions when it comes to building his armies. As Be'lakor, you're able to activate Gifts of Chaos from every single god from turn 1. And there are gifts you can get that can completely change how you play his campaign. He also has his own unique version of the unholy manifestations that range from being worthless to absolutely insane. The manifestation of Tzeentch, for example, lets you spawn a Chaos Rift anywhere on the map, with which you can then interact to teleport between them. These manifestations are the reason why his campaign feels so unique every time you play it. And you starting out on Albion also makes it extremely safe whenever you leave your home province to raid or conquer elsewhere. If you are ever in the mood for a bit of Warriors of Chaos, I would always suggest a Be'lakor campaign. Number 7 for me is Tyrion. Now, most of the High Elves are always fun to play, but I can never really tell what about the High Elves makes me want to play their campaign all the way until turn 100. Whether it's their extremely fun armies, collecting their legendary lords, all of which are unique in their own way, or if it's the whole influence mechanic that lets you specialize your armies and boost your campaign by recruiting lords and heroes with powerful traits. I feel like it all just comes together to make an enjoyable and comprehensive experience. Tyrion doesn't really have the strongest faction of all the High Elves, he doesn't have the most complex campaign ever, or the most difficult. It is average on all accounts. And most of the time, whenever I play the High Elves, that is exactly what makes me the most satisfied. I don't always want to interact with difficult or time-sensitive mechanics. And in fact, I feel like the High Elves are such a complete experience that any faction mechanic might even dampen the fun of the game. And I would say that passive bonuses are usually best for them. Sure, the unique mechanics are fun to play with every once in a while, such as the case with Eltharion or Alistar, but Tyrion's campaign is one I'm always down to play simply because it doesn't add much to something that I think is already close to being perfect. There is also the fact you can roleplay and customize him to either be an unstoppable melee combatant by going down the bloodline of Anarion and claiming the Sword of Cain, or you could choose to be the unifier and give your faction some very powerful bonuses. Overall, it's a very comfortable yet highly entertaining campaign to play, which I would always recommend if you intend to play a long-term campaign. Number 6 is Khazrak One-Eye. For me, Beastmen are usually a good experience if you just want to get lost into the moment and not think too hard about what you want to do next. Just because of how unique their campaign really is, where you aren't really a horde faction, but you also don't really care about their settlements. Now, people will always say that Torox's campaign is the best Beastman campaign, and that the Call of the Beastman DLC is overpriced and gives you subpar campaigns. While I won't say the campaigns it provides are anything special, I will say that I think Torox's campaign isn't really a Beastman campaign. You see, my issue with Torox, even though I absolutely love his campaign, is that it feels like I'm playing Torox and not the Beastman. It is fun getting lost in the slaughter and rampaging through the entire map, but I always end the campaign before it ever truly begins, as the map is left demolished after 30 or 40 turns. Again, I love me a Torox campaign, but I find myself enjoying Khazrak's a lot more when I just want to play the Beastman. Unlike Morgor or Malagor, Khazrak has a fairly easy start to his campaign and is fighting one of the easier races to deal with, the Empire. As such, you're able to build up at your own pace without feeling too threatened by the AI. But you don't just steamroll through the entire thing in a few turns, as is the case with Torox. His faction also provides you with some bonuses that just enhance the Beastman experience, such as higher ambush success chance and reducing the dread cost of your units. It is only, I feel, with Khazrak that you can truly experience the Beastman and have a lot of fun while playing their campaign. The only downside to playing Khazrak for me is that, well, he is a below average combatant, especially when compared to the other 3 Beastman lords. So if you're ever in the mood for some Beastmen to stink up the map, my recommendation is Khazrak. At number 5, the Fae. Now, Bretonnia is not the most exciting race to play, given their rather limited playstyle, but I do enjoy using their cavalry, and I always find the Fae to have a really interesting campaign. It is relatively difficult to start out, as you are surrounded by difficult enemies, which you have to fight right from the start. But you're also given just enough tools to be able to triumph. As an example, you get a unit of Grail Guardians from turn 1. And believe me when I tell you that using them to trample over rats and greenskins is always satisfying. Now, unlike the other Bretonnian lords, the Fae is in a much cozier position in the middle of Bretonnian lands, which lets you build up properly before you are forced to venture out and expand upon the map. which makes the campaign feel much better in its pacing, especially when compared to the other Bretonnian campaigns. All in all, if you're interested in a challenging campaign with satisfying cavalry charges right from the get-go, the Fae is second to none. At number 4, we have Archon. Now, while Tomb Kings are one of my favorite races to play, I've found myself enjoying them a bit less in Warhammer 3 compared to Warhammer 2. That being said, Archon's campaign does stand out, and I'm enjoying it a lot more now than ever before. You see, unlike in the previous game or the Tomb Kings currently, you start out being able to field 2 armies. This might not seem like a big deal, but since all of your units are free of upkeep, having 2 armies from the start is a massive boost to your campaign. And these aren't just throwaway armies like you'd expect. Thanks to the 9th Book of Nagash, Archon can recruit a few Vampire Count units, which are actually stronger than their base version. Having access to these Vampire Count units makes his early campaign far more engaging. You can expand much faster than any other Tomb Kings faction, allowing you to unlock more units, research army capacity faster, and be able to snowball your campaign almost as quickly as if you were playing any other race. This effectively eliminates many of the usual downsides of playing Tomb Kings. Honestly, I never expected the Nagash Simp to be my favorite Tomb Kings campaign, but here we are. If you're thinking about trying out the Tomb Kings, definitely give Archon's campaign a shot. Number 3 is going to be Astragoth's Iron Hand. The Chaos Dwarfs, being one of my all-time favorite races, will of course have one of my all-time favorite campaigns. And there is no lord in their roster that provides a better experience than Astragoth's Iron Hand. Now, why I love the Chaos Dwarfs is rather simple. They have some of the best campaign mechanics, some of the best empire building, some of the best bonuses provided to a single race ever, and some of the best units in the game. Their campaigns are always fun to play, and there is no Chaos Dwarf more suited to the playstyle of collecting bonuses as much as Astragoth. By getting 10% more Conclave influence, you are able to confederate the other 2 Chaos Dwarfs by around turn 40, making all of the bonuses in the Tower of Zar solely yours. Not having to deal with the other Chaos Dwarfs taking your hard-earned seats makes their campaign much more enjoyable, and all of the public order bonuses you get prevent you from losing too much labor, thus increasing your overall economy and allowing you to recruit even more Chaos Dwarf units. He does have a few other perks, such as boosting Bull Centaur renders by quite a bit, is a ridiculous beast in melee, as well as being a decently strong spellcaster. But all minor things compared to what he provides for your faction. So, if you ever want to have the true corporate overlord experience, I recommend giving him a go. Number 2, probably my least expected pick, but Belegar Ironhammer. Now, dwarfs are really not for everybody, with their rather slow growth and corner camp strategies. But honestly, they have gotten so much love during Thrones of Decay that you are now able to play them in a multitude of different ways. For example, gyrocopters and bombers used to be one of the worst units you could get for them, but now are some of their best units. Slayers, one of the worst melee infantry in the game, are actually still one of the worst melee infantry in the game. But now there are so many more ways that you can buff them that they actually become decently useful. And this just gives you whole new ways of playing the Dawi. I think it is because of all of their recent changes that they are so much more fun to play than they ever used to be. Belegar, while not the best, most fleshed out campaign, is rather very thematic in his quest for Carrick 8 Peaks, where you are heavily incentivized to recapture it due to the negatives you get by not owning it, and after you reclaim your ancestral home, got rid of all the negatives as well as getting a rather useful buff, you then have to defend it while being attacked from all sides by greenskins and Skaven. Because of this, I feel that if you were to play a very aggressive campaign where you instantly go for Carrick 8 Peaks, you will always have an interesting campaign to play. Now all of this just makes the campaign very difficult, very thematic, and very enjoyable. If you were to take up and play one of the campaigns from this list, I would definitely recommend this one. And if you need a bit of help getting his campaign started, I do have a guide on how you can capture Carrick 8 Peaks by turn 15. And for the number 1 spot, we have Skarbrand. Hardly a surprise, but yeah. There is no campaign I enjoy more than the Exiles of Khorne. Skarbrand just has an amazing campaign experience, where you're like a swarm of locusts let loose upon the world that devours everything in its path and spreads slaughter and carnage wherever you please. Truly, if you ever wish to just lose yourself in endless battles and bloodshed, Skarbrand is the campaign for you. By summoning Bloodhosts, you basically get armies recruited for free, which you can then use to create even more Bloodhosts in the never-ending cycle of death and destruction. These armies are also very varied in the units they can contain, making no two Bloodhosts feel the same when using them. So each battle you fight with them is an experience in and of itself. And considering how many you can get in a relatively short period of time, you will barely ever be pressing the end turn. Skarbrand's endless slaughter, by being able to jump from battle to battle in a single turn, is always enjoyable, and traversing the map like this in a short period of time feels even more satisfying than when playing Be'lakor and teleporting wherever you wish. Honestly, I truly think Skarbrand's campaign perfectly encapsulates what a Blood Gods themed campaign should look like. Just endless blood-fueled carnage, and I would always recommend you play his campaign. Lastly, I also want to make an honorable mention for Ungrim Iron Fist, which I honestly never thought I'd find myself enjoying as much as I am. Ever since the Thrones of Decay and all of the love Slayers got, I have found them to be a rather frustrating but enjoyable experience. You see, Slayers are still awful, don't get me wrong, but they are not as awful as they used to be. And if you're recruiting Slayer pirates, they can be quite strong. The problem with Slayers is that they will always die, which honestly isn't that big of an issue when playing Ungrim, considering you will be able to recruit them at relatively low costs. All in all, his campaign isn't a better dwarf experience, but it is a different one, and if you have played as many Dawi campaigns as I have, a change of pace is not a bad thing. Well, that is it for my picks. If you enjoyed and wish to see more of these types of videos, don't forget to subscribe for future content. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.
Khorne's board fights as one.